Today, we're going to talk about how to forge an unbreakable mind. And our guide for this is none other than Miyamoto Musashi, the legendary undefeated samurai who really, I think, cracked the code to mental discipline. So let's just dive right in.
But first, let me ask you something. Why do our minds feel so fragile these days? I mean, think about it. We're constantly distracted, we're emotionally reactive, and our focus just shatters at the slightest little thing. It's almost like we live in a world that's specifically designed to break our concentration, a world that makes our minds feel weak. And this is the contrast we're all up against, right? On one side, you have the modern mind. It's reactive, it's distracted, it's fragile. And on the other, you've got the warrior mind that we're all aiming for, calm, focused, and ultimately unbreakable. Now that gap can feel absolutely huge, but the good news is, Musashi basically left us a map to get across it. We're going to talk about breaking free from what you could call the modern cage of mental weakness. In our guide, Miyamoto Musashi, he gives us a timeless path out. See, he wasn't just a master with a sword, he was a master of the mind, and his principles are just as sharp today as they were 400 years ago. To do this, we are going to follow the warrior's path. Think of it as a journey in 4 distinct stages. And listen, this isn't just some list of tips. This is a structured process for completely transforming your mind, literally from the ground up. Okay, so stage 1, face reality. The core idea here is really simple, but it's also kind of savage. You cannot build anything strong on a flawed foundation that you refuse to even look at. This is where all the real work has to begin. You know, Musashi had this powerful way of thinking about it. He said that in building, you use the good-looking, perfect timber for the outside, for show. But the knotted timber, your flaws, your weaknesses, that's what's absolutely essential for the inner structure. You have to know and embrace your own imperfections to build something that's actually strong. So let's make this real. Let's imagine a guy, we'll call him Marcus. He thinks he's busy, he thinks he's working hard, but then he decides to actually track his time for 1 week. And well, the numbers told a pretty brutal story. 5 hours a day on his phone, only 3 hours of actual focused work. He wasn't busy. He was a slave to distraction. This is what facing reality looks like today. And that right there, that's the whole point of this first stage, what Musashi called the earth ring. It's all about accepting the truth, no matter how much it stings. The numbers don't lie. That feeling when your stomach drops after seeing the hard data, that is the foundation you need to build something truly unbreakable. All right, so once you face that uncomfortable truth, you move to stage 2. Forge the blade. This is where the real work kicks in, where you transform that self-awareness into actual strength through daily, consistent practice. The Japanese have a perfect word for this, Shuyo. It's not just practice, it's this idea of total immersion in difficulty. The goal is to see the obstacle, the hard workout, the focused work session, not as something blocking your path. The obstacle is the path. But here's where most people go completely wrong. They try to change everything overnight, and they just burn out. Musashi's water ring principle teaches us to flow, not force. So Marcus, he tried the big, heroic approach first, and, of course, he crashed. Instead, he started small, just a 15-minute workout. Then he built on it. Each tiny win started to rewire his brain, creating momentum instead of burnout. And this requires patience, a lot of it. Musashi wrote, 1,000 days of training to develop. 1,000 days. That's almost 3 years. This isn't a 30-day challenge. Real, lasting discipline is forged over thousands of days of consistent effort, not a few weeks of hyped-up motivation. Okay, now for stage 3, seek discomfort. So you've built the skills, you've been practicing, but a blade that's only ever forged in the comfort of the training hall, well, it's going to shatter in a real battle. It's time to actually test it. This is the concept of Musha Shugyo, the warrior's pilgrimage. Samurai would literally leave everything behind, their homes, their security, and just wander the country looking for real challenges. It was the ultimate way to find out if their training was just theory or if it was real. I mean, think about the huge difference here. Training in a quiet, controlled space, that builds skill. But testing yourself out on a noisy battlefield with all its uncertainty and very real consequences, that's what forges character. This is where you find out if your mental toughness is the real deal. Now look, you don't have to wander feudal Japan or climb Mount Everest. Your pilgrimage might be finally starting that business you've been dreaming of, or maybe it's having that difficult conversation you've been putting off, or even just moving to a new city. So, what's your pilgrimage?
All of this leads to the final stage, mastery. This is the point where the way is you. After you've faced reality, forged the blade, and tested it out in the wild, discipline is no longer just an act you perform. It becomes a fundamental part of who you are. This is Musashi's final teaching, the Void Ring, and its lesson is, well, it's profound. The goal isn't to get to some finish line where discipline suddenly becomes easy. Here's the secret. Discipline never gets easier. You get stronger. You learn to accept the eternal struggle. This is the absolute core mindset of mastery. It isn't some destination you arrive at. It's a daily process. The only person you're competing against is the person you were yesterday. The goal is simple. Win that battle. Every single day. And here's the beautiful paradox in all of this. When you finally fully embrace this eternal struggle, it stops feeling like a war. The struggle just becomes your nature. The discipline becomes as unconscious and as essential as breathing. You don't choose it anymore, it's just who you are. So, Musashi's path is laid out right here for you. The 4 rings, earth, water, fire, and void, they aren't just steps, they're a cycle for living. Your path starts right now. So I'll just leave you with this one question. What is today's battle?